I only got 10 minutes, so let's make a count. Guys, is this working?
Is it on?
Oh, there we go. Why don't you just go to the next slide?
Oh.
Jesus is going to return at 1:35 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on May 3rd, 3016.
Woo!
Don't ask me how I know, I just know. And it's a little bit longer than we all kind of thought, I know. So we got another 1,000 years to flourish and work and kind of be the image bearers on the world, right? And we've got some obstacles ahead of us. Why don't you hit the next slide? We got a warming planet that's happening. We've got this ever-increasing economic gap that's bringing a lot of tensions and stuff. We've got technology's expanding. We're going to go into space. We're using fuel at a rate that's not going to be good and sustainable. I heard predicted that we're going to be able to upload our consciousness to computers in like 100 years, and we're still miserable and depressed as ever. So we've got work to do. Next slide. The good thing is that none of that's true, except for all the obstacles. Like, nobody knows when Jesus is going to come back. And we don't know. I mean, he hasn't come back in 2,000 years, so it's not hard to imagine that it's another 1,000 or maybe 2,000 or however long that it's going to be. And the thing is that that's not the vision that was given to me. Because that's what it was. That's what it is, right? It's a vision. It's an idea of a future that's implanted itself in me, and it's beginning to work its way out. I wish I was more evolved in this, but it was only a few years ago that I realized that I actually had a different kind of vision that went something like this. All right, this is what I grew up in the form of Christianity I grew up in. It was this: nobody knows when Jesus is going to come back. But we kind of think we're at the end, right? And all we have to do is get that temple rebuilt and get that clean heifer put in there, and then pretty much, can you go to the next slide? We'll like turn the keys of the locks of the trap door that Jesus is sitting on, and he'll eventually just fall into the world and restore his kingdom to us. And that vision in me was working in a way that I had no idea, because I came to a spot where I realized like I didn't care about the planet because I was a Christian, even though that I didn't believe in that belief. And it was doing two things unconsciously to me, which was I never imagined the world 200 years from my own life. Because why would I need to? Because Jesus is going to come back, and if there is a giant mess, well, we'll just sit back and watch him clean it all up, right? And secondly, it made me never had to contemplate that I'm actually going to die. And I know that this is kind of like old man talk, and maybe it is because I'm 38 and I'm feeling the twinges of my eventual disappearance. And I hope the laughter is because you feel that same way, or you're farther along on that. But I never thought that I would have to die. Like, maybe I'd get old. Can you go to the next slide? I'd get old, and I'd be in my walker, but it'd be like, burr, 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 and be like, yay! I'm not going to have to go through that. But I am. And so are you. So is your churches, and so is everybody, right? So is our kids and our grandkids, and it just keeps going and going and going. And I mean, even Jesus lets us know that this is a reality. Can you go to the next slide? He says, I'm the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. I mean, he didn't even get out of it, right? And our ultimate resurrection comes out of our ultimate death. And so, if he's not coming back for at least 1,000 years or however long, or we don't know when, what are we to do as the church if this isn't our scapegoat? Men and women of Inhabit, I would like to say to you that what would be helpful from you is to deliver a vision worth giving. I believe that faith and actually what we do at church is a remembrance and a practice. So remembrance is when we remember the work that we've seen God do in our lives and in the ways that he's acted and been working throughout the history of the world. And so when we come to present challenges, we bring that remembrance to that. But our practice is anchored in a vision that we have of what we think we're going towards, right? In a vision of what the future inevitably is going to be, what we think we will become. This is the vision that pulls us forward. This is the future that elevates us now. And I've spent my whole art career working with churches. And I was asked to share about my experiences being an artist working with churches. And I can't speak to music and poetry. I can only speak to it as opinion, so I'm not going to. But I can speak about being a visual artist and how I think it helps with the work of the church. So look, if I was to come to your church and I was to poll your church members on what they thought heaven was like, you would find a myriad of different ideas. Like it'd be a crazy amount of ideas. But you would find some unifying descriptions. And I bet hard, cold cash that those similarities that you would discover are rooted in cartoons, in caricatures, in illustrations that people have seen in mass media, right? And so these ideas, there's a power in what we describe, convey, and illustrate. And I believe most people's ideas are rooted in an image. Therefore, whatever we're doing and the image making we're doing becomes very important. How we tell stories, what kind of metaphors we give, how you actually paint and draw, what you portray becomes an anchor to a person's belief or a thought. And why do you think that the incarnate God comes to earth and the way he mostly teaches us is through visual pictures, right? He's giving us an image that we can anchor our belief in, a multi-textual kind of one that we can have to work out and figure out and frustrate over. But it's something to base our thoughts in, base our beliefs in. So I could get into the nitty-gritty of details of how this works with artists, but I only have 10 minutes. So here's my advice to you, because I love you, you who are pastors and workers of churches and communities, is invite us into the vision that changed your life. Because I know you're not into this because of the awesome retirement package at the end of your career, right? Like in some way in your life, the story and narrative and presence of Jesus has transformed you. So invite the artist in your midst into your wonder. The thing that gives you wonder. Invite them and tell them about that wonder, and then let that wonder impregnate the work that they're going to do. My most recent project, I love the Stations of the Cross, and I think it's a really amazing practice that we have. I'm always like, how do we invite people into the story of Jesus without having to ask them to come into our church buildings? So I've been wanting to do this for a long time, a Stations of the Cross like street art show. That would be like on the outside of the church. And so I came up with a series of images. I got permission, I asked my church, I was like, hey, can I wheat paste these on the side of the building? Because Imago Dei community in Portland is on a commuter lane. So people going back and forth to work on their bikes, which is a lot of bike culture there, are going by all the time. And I was like, why can't during Lent these commuters partake in the Stations of the Cross? So I gave them an opportunity to that. And it was out on the outside of the building, people walk by all the time. And a lot of conversations, a lot of things. We were teaching, and we were offering people that practice. That they didn't have to come in and join our church. It's like, here's a practice that we're doing, which is contemplating the life of Jesus and his death and partaking in some of the worst things about being a human being, right? Being under an unjust system, physical pain, broken family relationships. That's a lot of what the Stations is about. Here's the thing about artists, if they're in your midst and you're working with them. Every artist has a deep, deep desire that what they would do would not be meaningless. And I know we all kind of have that feeling as well in our own lives. But we often feel like it is, it's just an afterthought, right? And so we want to add something to the fabric of humanity, something good that would change people's lives, that would add to a future that we hope to live into. And so for me, I actually keep some artists in mind when I think about my work, and I wanted to share that vision with you. The two artists are Bill S. Preston Esquire and Ted Theodore Logan. They're the main characters of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. But if you don't know the premise of this movie, which was awesome, is that these two guys are confronted one day by a guy who comes out of a telephone booth out of the ground, which is basically a time machine. And he's like, hey, look, you have to finish your history report. Like, the future of humanity rests on that. And so they're going throughout history, collecting all these historical figures. I know, this got made into a movie. Collecting all these historical figures to then like do an awesome history report. But there's this one moment where they end up in a place that they've never seen before. And they don't know what it is. And these there's these weird people floating, and they come out and they start talking to them, and these people walk out and they start doing this like guitar thing like this. And later on, their guide Rufus, who's played by George Carlin, they ask him, they're like, "Hey Rufus, what was that? Where did we go in that time? Where were we at? There was all these weird people in weird clothes and stuff." And Rufus is like, "You went to the future." And he's like, "Look," and it's a crazy premise, but he's like, "Look, the music you make heals the world. Like people, like wars stop happening, food distribution goes out, the planets align, and there's peace because of the music you make. And you entered into the future where people came and they wanted to say thank you. Thank you for this future." And I just think in our work that we're doing, there's a future that I can implant in you. There's a future that if you got to go there, people would say thank you. Thank you for helping make this future. So, thank you for your work. We want to work with you as artists, and let's go towards that. Thanks a lot.